about the Dalai Lama. Okay, so in his early life, he was really given the name Lama Thunda. He was born July 6, 1935 in Taxta, China. He was from a very poor family, and in his, in the culture of Dalai Lama, or of his religion, Tibetan Buddhism, the Dalai Lama they're like looked at to be like the Dalai Lama from before, just reincarnated. So to even be picked as a Dalai Lama, everyone had to search for you and look for you, try to find you, and they have to pray and they have to get this inspiration that you are the chosen one, you're the Dalai Lama. So that's pretty cool that he was, that person. And it's even crazier that they found him at the age of 2, and they used the government, and he was selected to be the next Dalai Lama at the age of 2. And he went through several years of training and schooling just to be the Dalai Lama. And he was a political leader at the age of 15. All right, so Tibetan Buddhism is basically the same as Buddhism, but it's like they're Buddhists, but they branched off into like another part of Buddhism, and that's Tibetan Buddhism. It combines the teachings from Mahayana Buddhism alongside tantric shamanic teachings from an ancient Tibetan religion called Bon. Buddhism became a major precedent in Tibet towards the end of the 8th century. So Buddhism, it started in the 6th century, of course, and they caught on a little later. They're an independent country. And it was brought from India by the Tibetan king. And he really started a whole movement of that, really, because he's the one who translated it. The text from Buddhist into Tibetan, so they could really understand it and start to take in that religion. Okay, Dalai Lama's belief. As most people know, he was known for his nonviolent protests and things of that nature. He opposed violence. He believed in nonviolence, of course. And in 1987, he proposed the 5-point peace plan for Tibet, and the first steps to peaceful solution with China to reconcile and end the violent situation there. What that is about is China and Tibet, I guess, had a lot of bad blood, and they're getting invaded by the Chinese, and he was trying to resolve the problem without a lot of blood being shed. I thought that was really cool as well. He believed that his nonviolent protests could help resolve some of the violence or protests, and he believed things being handled, like I said, without bloodshed, which I agree with to an extent. So Dalai Lama had taken many actions to, including the 5-point peace plan, many actions to try to stop so much bloodshed. So in 1989, Dalai Lama nonviolent efforts for the liberation of Tibet and his, concern for the global environment problem won him the Nobel Peace Prize. The committee said great things about him. They were talking about, how the fact that Dalai Lama, in his struggle for the liberation of Tibet, consistently had opposed the use of violence, and he instead of advocated peaceful solutions based upon tolerance and mutual respect in order to preserve the historical and cultural heritage of his people. I think that was cool because, he wanted to keep everything in his country the same as it's been for years, and he wanted to be the same years to come. He wanted to be a place of peace, and he didn't want to fight fire with fire. That was different, and now he's ahead of his time. But he definitely deserved to win the Nobel Peace Prize. His whole campaign was over 40 years. I've never been alive, not even 40 years. That's a long time. And, you know, because China wanted to dominate Tibet, and, you know, he wanted his country to be his country. You know, he was a very relentless person about everything he wanted, and I respect that. Is non-violence realistic? Okay. I really think non-violence is not realistic in most cases. It all has to do with, you know, who you're trying to be nonviolent with. If the other person is an aggressor and you keep going, you can't possibly be nonviolent unless you want to hurt yourself. But I do think it's real in a small interpersonal level between like small groups of people who already know each other. Yes, it's very realistic. But overall, you cannot expect, you know, nonviolence or your enemy to handle problems the way you would want to, or expect them to, you know, to respect the fact that you're nonviolent, because the fact that you're nonviolent does not make the next man nonviolent, you know. So I don't really think it's realistic completely, but partially. You know, it's one of those things where I'm kind of on the fence, and both are true. You know, so what would you say? What would you say? Do you think nonviolence is realistic? Do you think there could ever be a world with no violence? I don't know. I don't think that may ever be possible. And to end it all, here are my references. I used BBC, I used biography.com, and I used an article from the New York Times by Stephanie Rule that was written in 1989. I think around the time he won, a few weeks after, or somewhere in there. But yeah, this is my presentation about the Dalai Lama. I hope you enjoy.